They found a journal in the rubble of Crow's Band Mine in the winter of 1902. Pages stained with blood and candle wax, spine cracked like broken ribs. The last entry read, "The mountain is hungry again. It won't let us leave." But the story behind those words began 30 years earlier, on a scorching July afternoon in 1872, when a man named Ezra Coldwell rode into the mining camp of Perdition Creek with nothing but a pickaxe and a photograph he kept pressed against his heart. Every sunrise the mine bell would ring to summon men into the darkness. Every sunset, fewer would emerge. They said the mountain was cursed, that it ate men whole and spit out only their shadows. That deep in those tunnels, something older than gold was sleeping. They were right. Perdition Creek wasn't a town. It was a wound in the earth where desperate men gathered to bleed themselves dry for the promise of yellow metal. Tents clustered like tombstones around the mine entrance, a black mouth carved into the mountainside, timber frame rotten even then, as if the rock itself was rejecting the intrusion. Ezra Coldwell was 43 years old, though his eyes were older. Dust clung to him like a second skin. He carried no gun, only that photograph, edges worn soft from being touched too often in the dark. The foreman, a thick-necked man named Harlan Voss, looked him up and down like livestock. "You know what you're signing up for?" Ezra's voice was quiet as a prayer. "I know. Men go missing down there, 3 last month alone. We find their gear sometimes, never the men. I'll take my chances." Voss studied him a moment longer. "You running from something or toward it?" Ezra didn't answer. He just took the lantern and walked toward the mine entrance, where the mountain waited with its mouth open wide. That night, in the communal tent, a boy no older than 16 sat sharpening a knife by candlelight. His name was Thomas Webb, eyes too young to have seen what they'd already witnessed. "You really going down there?" the boy asked. Ezra laid out his bedroll in silence, then pulled the photograph from his chest pocket. A woman, dark hair, eyes that held laughter. Behind her, a small cabin with flowers in the window box. "Pretty," Thomas said softly. "Was." That word hung in the air like smoke. "She dead?" "Worse. She's waiting." Ezra tucked the photograph away. "The mountain had a voice. That's what the miners said. Down in the deepest shafts, where lantern light couldn't quite reach, you could hear it breathing. A low rumble that wasn't quite sound, more like a feeling in your bones. Some men swore they heard whispers. Others heard nothing at all before they vanished." Ezra worked in silence, deeper than the others dared to go. He carved through rock with a fury that frightened the men around him, as if he was trying to dig his way through the mountain entirely, or bury himself inside it. 3 weeks in, Thomas found him at the lowest level, sitting in the darkness with his lantern turned low. "You shouldn't be down here alone," the boy said. "This is where they disappear." Ezra didn't look up. "I know." "Then why?" "Because I'm looking for something." "Gold?" "No." Ezra's hands were shaking. "Forgiveness." Thomas sat beside him, and in that suffocating darkness, Ezra finally spoke. "Her name was Catherine. We had a cabin in Colorado. Small place. She wanted children. I wanted gold. I left her there. Told her I'd be back in 6 months with enough money to build the life she deserved." The lantern flickered. "I was gone 3 years, chasing one claim after another, one false promise after the next. When I finally came home," he stopped. The silence was heavier than stone. What happened? The cabin was empty. Flowers dead in the boxes. Neighbor said she waited a year, then 2. Then she just walked into the mountains one winter morning. They found her dead body in the spring, frozen beneath a pine tree, still facing the direction I'd ridden off. Thomas didn't speak. What words could hold that kind of weight? I've been chasing gold ever since, Ezra whispered. Not because I want it, because I need to know if it was worth what I traded. If there's enough yellow metal in all these mountains to balance the scale. And if there ain't, then maybe the mountain will take me too. Maybe that's the only fair trade left. The mine took 3 more men that month, then 5, then Harlan Voss himself, found at the bottom of a shaft with his lantern still burning and his eyes wide open, staring at something no one else could see. The camp began to empty. Men packed their gear in the night and rode out without looking back, but Ezra went deeper. He stopped coming up for meals, stopped sleeping in the tent. Thomas would find him underground, covered in rock dust, digging like a man possessed. "You're going to die down here," Thomas said. "I know." "Then let me help you." Ezra finally looked at him. "Why would you do that?" The boy's voice was barely a whisper. "Because I got a sister waiting for me in Santa Fe, and I'm starting to think about gold more than I think about her face." They stared at each other in the lamplight, 2 men at different ends of the same curse. That night they went down together, deeper than anyone had gone before. The tunnel narrowed, the air grew thin, the walls seemed to pulse like a living thing. And then they found it. Not gold, a chamber, massive, carved not by men, but something older. The walls were covered in symbols, ancient, predating any tribe either of them knew, and in the center, a vein of gold so pure it seemed to glow in the lantern light, running through the rock like a spine. But surrounding it were bones, dozens of skeletons, hundreds piled in the shadows, some still clutching pickaxes, some curled as if sleeping. "Jesus Christ," Thomas breathed. Ezra stepped forward, transfixed. He reached out to touch the gold, and the mountain groaned. The walls shuddered. Dust rained from the ceiling. And in that moment, Ezra understood. The mountain wasn't cursed. It was a test. The gold was bait, and every man who came seeking it proved himself willing to trade everything, family, honor, life itself, for metal that meant nothing once you were dead. Catherine hadn't died waiting for gold. She died waiting for him to realize gold was never worth waiting for. "We have to go." Thomas grabbed his arm. "Now." But Ezra stood frozen, staring at the gold. All that time, all that loss, and here it was, enough wealth to last 10 lifetimes. He could take it, fill his pockets, die rich. Or he could leave it, walk away, die as the man Catherine had believed he was before the fever took him. The ceiling cracked, a beam fell, missing them by inches. "Ezra!" Thomas was pulling him backward. "It's not worth it." And in that boy's voice, Ezra heard Catherine, saw her in the cabin window, flowers dying in their boxes, waiting for a man who loved gold more than he loved coming home. He pulled the photograph from his pocket one last time, looked at her face, then he let it fall. The photograph fluttered down, landing on the pile of bones, just another offering to the mountain's hunger. "Run," Ezra said. They ran. The mountain roared. Walls collapsed behind them. Tunnels folded in on themselves like the mine was exhaling after holding its breath for decades. They burst out into sunlight just as the entrance caved in, sealing the gold and the bones and all those broken promises in the darkness where they belonged. Perdition Creek was silent, empty.
Just two men standing in the dust, breathing hard, alive.
Thomas Webb rode for Santa Fe that same hour. He made it home 3 weeks later, and when his sister opened the door, he dropped his empty packs and held her so tight she thought he'd never let go. He never spoke of Perdition Creek again. Ezra Coldwell was last seen walking north toward Colorado. Some say he went back to that cabin. Others claim he wandered the mountains until winter took him, same as it took Catherine, and maybe that was the point. They sealed Crow's Bend officially in 1903. Too many dead, too many missing. The mountain had won. But on certain nights when the wind comes down from those peaks, you can still hear it, the sound of pickaxes striking stone, men digging for something that was never there, or maybe something that was always there, just not what they thought they were looking for. The West keeps its secrets buried deep. Every fortune costs something. Every promise has a price. And some mountains don't just hold gold, they hold mirrors, reflecting back what we're really made of when everything else is stripped away. They say the West keeps its secrets. Every scar, every promise, every whispered trail. Some rode for vengeance, others for love. But a few just rode to find peace beneath the dying sun. Would you have taken the gold? Subscribe for more tales from whispering trails under the Wild West limits.